Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Jack Mitchell with another edition of Entrepreneur's Corner. Entrepreneur's Corner is sponsored by TCC&M, which means Treasure Coast Communications and Marketing, and also sponsored by Treasure Coast Printers, Treasure Coast Studios, Wise Communications. We have a number of wonderful sponsors that we want to thank for allowing us to have this great show and presenting to you, our audience, people in the community who really are making a difference, especially those who are entrepreneurs. Last week, I happened to be at an open house of a new company, and there I was very fortunate to meet this very lovely lady who I found out was an entrepreneur. And so I've invited her to come to our program and share with you her experience as an entrepreneur. So let me welcome this wonderful lady, Paola Torre.
Yes.
So I got it correct, Paola Torre. Paola, tell us, the audience, a little bit about your background, where you're from, and then we'll get into your career.
Sure. So I'm from New York, born and raised in Queens. I've lived there up until about 10 years ago. I moved to Florida 10 years ago, and I have a big background in service, customer service. Almost everything that I've done in numerous different industries have all been relative to service. Mm-hmm. Coming here, I at some point had one of those, I guess, epiphanies type of things when I said, you know what, the corporate world might not be my thing anymore. Maybe I need to venture out and kind of do something different. Yes.
Was that when you were here, or were you still in New York?
Here.
Here,
Yeah.
so you came here. Where you were,
So when I came here, when I moved here, I started working in the restaurant business.
Okay.
Not corporate.
So when you came here, did you have a job, or did you?
No, I left a job in imports in New York. It was in import and exports. Mm-hmm. I left that job, and my husband did. He came. He was working.
Okay, so you were married. Mm-hmm. Or I'm married. And your husband and you were living in New York.
Right.
And both of you decided to come together?
Right, yeah. Yes. He came first.
He came first, okay.
Mm-hmm. Set us all up, and then I came. I was still in New York working for about 2-3 months.
Okay.
And then I followed right after. At that point, I did stay home for about a year because we had a little one. We have 3 kids now, but at that time we had our second one who was still very little, and we had no family here. It was just us, maybe one sister-in-law, and that was it. So I stayed home for a year, and then I got an opportunity to work for a brewing company, it's a microbrewery in Coral Springs.
Okay.
I spent 7 years there working with the management team, learning all the ins and outs of running a business and the restaurant world. And then it got to a point where I said, you know what, I need more. You know, this is a very local, it's not a corporate place. There's really nowhere else to go.
Yep.
You know,
Your career-wise.
Right. Mm-hmm. From there on out, I went to work for a big credit card company back into the corporate world. Mm-hmm. And that's where I said, all right, this is not what I was looking for.
Was it too structured?
Yeah, too structured, too controlled. Everything from the moment you clock in till you clock out, it was just way too much. I didn't have the freedom I had before. A lot of things I felt suppressed. I felt very robotish. It was a call center. It did prepare me for a lot of the things that came after, because I went from working very liberally and knowing what my responsibilities were to working to a place where I was speaking to 80 to 100 people on the phone in one day. So it was a lot of, it had its pros and cons. I look at it as it prepared me for what came next. Mm-hmm. It definitely gave me the clear understanding that this is not for you. Yep. Yes. Yep. From there on out, from the restaurant world, I had a old friend there who went into the insurance in Medicare. And he kind of put it in my ear, like, you should try this out. This is really, this is going to be your own business. You're working, you're helping people, and it's on your own terms, and at the same time, for me, it's more of a service than a sale, and I don't have to worry. I don't send an invoice to anyone, but I'm able to help people kind of navigate through their Medicare, which nobody really understands.
It's being a Medicare user, I understand.
That's a whole college course, I think.
It's a maze of information, and you get inundated with, when you get to my age, you get inundated with things in the mail.
Right.
I just don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I'm pretty well educated, but I get totally confused with all that.
And then you'll get misinformed,
Yeah.
or there's no easy way. They don't really structure it in an easy way for anyone to just say, this is what you get, this is what you have, fill in the blanks. It's just, there's a blank here, there's A, B, C, D, but C is covering that. It's
it gets really confusing.
right.
And especially as you get older, I'm not as quick. Well, I'm not as quick today as I was, 30 years ago, type of thing. And as we get older, our brains are not quite as quick into. It's just a lot of.
It's a lot of information and a lot of changes that change every year.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be a resource.
So you met this particular gentleman who introduced you to the potential of becoming a Medicare specialist and having not working for him, but having.
That's the twist in my story.
Okay,
so when I had seen him the last time, he was doing stuff from home, sort of building his business from home.
Was his specialty Medicare?
Medicare, working on the phones.
Okay.
So that's where that kind of tied in. The next time when I was losing my mind working for the corporate credit card company, I spoke to him and he just said, hey, come to my office, let's talk. And I'm like, office? I thought you do this from home. Like, what happened? What are we? So I walk in and sure enough, there's this whole office set up with agents and it's a call center. So I walked in a whole different setup of a call center. It was not corporate. It was commission based. It's sales. But it's in a service industry. So I used to always sit there and take calls for the credit card company and just be completely against putting people in debt and like want to give them a different lecture, but I can't speak about that because my calls are recorded. And I'm like, okay, now I'm in the service industry, so it's much different conversation. Now I'm feeling sort of more of a purpose behind what we're talking about. So I loved it. I love, the feeling of people calling you back, looking for you, like, you got me through this, you helped me with that.
But now you were employed at the time. So
I was employed by them.
By him, but it was on.
So we came to the agreement that
Was there a salary involved?
It was commission only. So it
commission
prepped me from losing that corporate paycheck
which is a major.
That was a big fear.
Yep.
That was a big adjustment. It was losing that month, week to week or biweekly paycheck that I knew was going to be there.
Yeah.
But it did take me 40 hours to get that specific number to now, well, I could potentially go home today and work the same amount of numbers with a zero paycheck or a much bigger paycheck. So it definitely changed my perspective on a lot of things, gave me a lot more control. But it set me up for, he just took me in and said, we have a spot here. Learn whatever you can from us. And when you're ready to go, we'll just switch your contracts. You'll go independent and, you're set. So it's almost like things fell apart. Looking backwards, like Steve Jobs says, you can't connect the dots going forwards. You got to connect it going backwards. I look back and I'm like, okay. Yeah. That's why that happened, and all the fears of things that I didn't want to let go of. Eventually, somehow, I went through it without realizing it at that moment.
We're going to take a commercial break. And then when we come back, we're going to find out a little bit more about that transition to where you became totally independent and had started your own company. So we'll be back in just a moment, folks. You'll hear a message or two from our sponsors.
Why would over 23,000 successful business owners and CEOs pay to meet in small monthly peer discussion groups? The answer? To meet and interact with other result-driven leaders who are responsive and supportive, and to develop their businesses according to Dun & Bradstreet to be 2.5 times more successful than other small to medium-sized businesses. Join a Wise Solomon group today.
Welcome back. We're here with Paola Torre. And Paola, do you have a name of the company that you have?
Well, I'm independent. I'm a broker, so I'm under Paola Torre, PA.
Ah, okay. So that's pretty impressive. Tell us, how did you get there? We've heard your journey up until you started actually in the Medicare world. What happened? How long were you working with this gentleman? And then when you became independent, and then how did you get here to?
So it's funny.
Port St. Lucie.
COVID had a lot to do with that. But it was the way it worked out when I was working with them. I have 3 kids, and it just so happened that all of them had something going on health-wise. One of them had She caught pneumonia, walking pneumonia. The other one had her tonsillitis, had to have her tonsils removed, all at the same time. And here I am in this commission-based job where I'm like, oh, I'm also a mom. I kind of have to do that first.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what, this has to be a sign. I'm just gonna take it as a sign. It's just time to just do this on my own terms and get everything going. And if I don't start now, 6 months now, what's the difference? I'm still gonna face the same thing. It just so happens I have other friends, very close friends, who are also in the Medicare industry, and they also led me to piece everything together so that I can be a broker and not just stick to one thing. I can do everything under the Medicare umbrella, and they've guided me throughout. And
Tell the folks the difference between just being an agent and being a broker.
so a captive agent typically works for one
Captive
company.
agent. Okay, now that's another term.
Right.
So what's a captive agency?
They work for a particular company.
Oh, they
Just
represent one
company.
particular product line.
Then you have an agent. In insurance terms, an agent represents the company. A broker will represent the client, or vice versa. So in my end, I can be the broker where I have contracts with all the different carriers and can offer all the different options for the client or the patient. So that gave me much more
Scope,
opportunity. Yeah. So it made it much easier to work with a whole lot of different options. There's not just one.
So you're home now with 1, 2, or 3 kids who are
3 kids
in various sicknesses and maladies, and you're saying, okay, I need my own time. I need to be able to make time different than working with someone else. So you said, well, let me then go. Did you have to study to get the broker license?
I did not. It's the same license that you get when you become an insurance agent. You do have to study the plans because every carrier offers something different. So you just got to understand that there's different things available for people on Medicare, such as Medicaid or things like that. So you want to know about all those resources and have that available to people. So I did, once I left, becoming a broker opened up that, what do you say, that whole chest.
Opportunity,
right.
Yeah. It's
And
a Pandora box.
exactly. So I had to learn about everything that's available for people because there's people that aren't aware. So I have to be that source, that
You're the expert.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that was something I had to sort of figure out there and navigate. And when you're independent, you have a lot of support and stuff, but you're independent. You don't have weekly sales training meetings or the trainings.
Was it lonely? I mean, you buy it lonely in the sense professionally. I mean, you have a husband and 3 kids, so yeah, and I'm sure a lot of friends. So you're not lonely in that sense. But as a business person, now you're by yourself. How do you deal with that?
It's interesting. I do try to partner with people who do different things. I am lonely in the sense I have other agents out there that if there's something I can't do, it's more like a friendly competition, I guess you can call it. It's like, I need help with this. Can you handle this, or can you take on? But it is a male-dominated industry, so a lot of people who are around me that help me in are males. There's like 1 or 2 women, but it is. I do go around other businesses. I notice I have to source my own leads. So there's no one just, all these influx of leads coming in. But I find it to be a lot, for example, like a real estate broker. You have to find who's looking. Right now, it's great, but you have to find really where your leads are coming from and things like that. I do involve myself with a lot of community outreach things where I'm out there as well, because that's also part of helping and being the resource where people need to know.
So you have to do a lot of networking, I would think.
Yes, definitely. I think with any business, you kind of got to get out there and network. People have to know what you do. But especially in something like Medicare, because I don't feel that there's a lot of places. There may be agents all over the place, but you don't know. You don't know where they are, who they are, or gotta get out there.
So you were doing this in Coral Springs down in Miami. It's a lovely community. And then, but you came here to another
Port
really
St. Lucie, yes.
wonderful community in the whole Treasure Coast. What brought you here?
I wanted a house. So when I moved to Florida, we moved into a condo. And we had been looking maybe 2 or 3 years at this point, but then COVID came and delayed it even more and weren't finding what we were looking for. And so after being locked up for 5, 6, 7 months at that point, it was like, well, why are we still here? We can't leave our condo. Why don't we just check other zip codes at this point? Because now we can see that things can be done in this little area. So let's just look around. sure enough, we had friends that lived up here, so we've been up here, and it was a perfect location. I feel like we're more central here. We can get
What
north
does
and
what does
south.
your husband do for work?
He works for insurance as well, just not on the sales side. He's a claims adjuster for car insurance.
Okay, so but he could move then.
Yes,
Okay.
that was a benefit as well. So that's what we did. As soon as we changed the zip code to our areas up here, it's just this influx of properties that were like, we can go see all of this. Is totally what we're looking for. And on day one of looking, we found the house.
Wow.
Yeah.
How
So
fortunate.
it was just one of those like,
It was-
okay, this
it
is
was-
all
it was-
falling into place.
It was meant to be.
Exactly.
There's someone looking out for you up there. That's wonderful. So you've been here for how long now, Paola?
I've been here going on 7 months.
Only 7 months.
Only
So
7
you're a
months.
newbie here to our area.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Are you living in Port St. Lucie or Fort Pierce or
Port St. Lucie.
in Port St. Lucie? Now, how are you going about getting your name out there? Because now you have to find a new client base. I mean, you have your client base already in Miami, in that greater Miami area. But now I'm sure you're going to be looking for more clients here. And your clients they're not other insurance agents. Your clients are really the consumer himself or herself, that person that's age. Do you want to find them when they're 60 or when they're 65 or when they're 70 or
It's good.
who's your target audience?
I get a lot of people that come when they're 64 because they're starting to try to navigate, like, what do I do when I retire? That's a good age. That's a good time frame to start looking. Typically, I'm very big on building relationships with people. So those will be the same phone calls I get 6 months later. It's like, okay, it's time. It's time to enroll, get the ball rolling, whatever we're doing. But it's any age because with Medicare, things change. You may have people who have been retired for 10 years, 20 years, or on Medicare for 10 or 20 years, and their medications change over time. And now that carrier is not covering this the same way. So there's always something that may change for them. So it's anyone pretty much in the Medicare age group, or there's some people who are younger and maybe on disability, and they're Medicare beneficiaries.
Okay. Now, how do you get to them? So it's through networking.
Yes. I network a whole lot, especially here in Port St. Lucie, because I need to learn where everything is also. So I like to network a lot with businesses. A lot of times it's not targeting certain businesses, but you never know who it is. It's people's parents, their next door neighbors. Conversations come up
That's
all
the
the time.
thing, that you may see this young person who is not going to be interested in Medicare. And I've seen too many times that people will kind of not snub their nose, but won't pay any attention to them in a networking situation. Yet that person may have parents who are just prime and interested, and they've had that discussion around a kitchen table. And that person could be a wonderful representative or a conduit to have you meet with their parents.
And a lot of times those people are the ones who are helping their parents get through everything with
That's
Medicare.
great.
So you'll
give
have
them the guidance.
exactly. So it's happened here in Port St. Lucie a lot where I get a lot of people who are like, I need help with my mom's Medicare. I don't know what this is. She doesn't know what this is, and she's coming to me and I don't know what this is. So I get a lot of that as well.
So what makes you what makes you different from, what's your competitive advantage? Let me put it that way.
The main thing for me is knowing what you do, who you are. There's tons of agencies. I'm up against full agencies with agents everywhere. But it's the same as what's on your phone. Like you said, you turn 65, the phone calls start coming in, the mail starts coming in.
That's right.
So it's, what sets you apart is the service that you're giving. A lot of times you'll have places that you're calling and you'll never get that representative again. So if there's a problem next year or 6 months down the line or next week, here we go. I have to tell my whole story again, and it's.
I mean, that makes such a difference, doesn't it? I can speak to that personally of going with a larger agency, and then that person, the turnover, it can be pretty significant. And so you think that you have someone there that knows your situation and can give you some good guidance, and then you contact them and say, well, Mabel's not longer here.
Right.
Shazam. But with you, I mean.
It's my cell phone number.
It's you.
You get me on the other line.
So it's you. When I call, I'm going to speak to
me directly
to you, and that really is a competitive advantage.
Yeah, I believe it is.
Yeah. In terms of just the experience you've had as an independent entrepreneur, what advice, or you've been through it, the good times, the tough times. getting started, having some success. What advice would you give our audience? There are folks out here, in our audience who may be thinking about whether it's becoming an insurance, Medicare, whether it's becoming a hairdresser, maybe it's becoming a plumber, whatever it may be. From your experiences, you kind of reflect on being an entrepreneur and the process. What advice can you give to someone out here?
After COVID and seeing how many businesses came out of that, I just feel like whatever you're set on doing, whatever idea it is, just do it. I had all my fears that I kind of set me back and gave me one step at a time with every job that I had. And eventually I had to face those same fears. I was afraid of going head first and being independent. So I went to this agency because I said, well, at least I'll get leads and I can sort of build my paycheck. At some point I had to face that anyway. So it's just a lot of the fears that I had that I tried to get around, I had to face them anyway. So if I could have done it earlier, I would have just went head on. Another thing is that I feel like when we do something that's very scary, we always set up a plan B. But then that kind of makes you keep thinking there's always a plan B, so you can't 100% do this because you're thinking, this can always,
There's
so
an
don't,
escape, yeah.
Right, don't have a plan B so that your only option is this. The only option is to move forward with what you're doing.
Yeah. Boy, that's excellent. I told you she was pretty special. It's just been a pleasure. And I'm sure the audience has just thoroughly enjoyed your words of wisdom and your experience and your story. So we're thrilled that you're here. 7 months, we want to, 7 months from now and 7 years from now, I want to just see you just being wonderfully successful and,
Thanks.
and
I definitely
happy
love it here.
as you are. And we're just thrilled. So thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining us tonight on Entrepreneurs Corner. And we want to thank you, our audience, for joining us. And I'm sure that you've enjoyed meeting Paola Torre. And Paola, give the folks, now they'll see it on the screen, your information, but just want to tell the folks how to get in touch with you, the best way to get in touch with you.
You can call me. You can call me on my cell phone. The number is 516-403-3904. You can find me on Facebook. I'm all over Facebook. I tend to network a lot, so you'll see me in everyone's pictures. And email, and all those major forms of contact, you'll be able to find me there. I will definitely reach out to you.
That's wonderful. Again, thank you for watching Entrepreneurs Corner, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day.
You have been listening to and watching Entrepreneurs Corner, a talk show that interviews entrepreneurs of the Treasure Coast and gets valuable insight to the secrets of their success and the story of their business. Sponsored by TCoastStudios. Visit TCoastStudios.com.